ain't no need why. We gon' prosper here today, come see why. Peace365, trying to let go of that pride and see the value of a lie. Lauderhill, 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 ayy. Lauderhill, 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 ayy. Peace365 all day, every day. On our way to making waves, watching sea change. Lauderhill, 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 ayy. Lauderhill, 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 ayy. No competition.
Hey, Lauderhill, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time you're watching this live stream. It is so good to see you. I am your commissioner, Melissa P. Dunn, and shout out to Moncito for producing, writing, and performing that original composition exclusively for Lauderhill Peace365. Welcome to the second session of our Lauderhill Peace365 Adult Peace Empowering Workshop. It's so good to see you again today. And as always, we invite you to join the conversation. Type your name and where you're watching from in the chat right now and be a part of the conversation as I bring on our panelists for today. It's going to be a really empowering conversation, everyone. So I hope you get ready to join in. So we are going to be joined in today by Prophetess Monique Henry. Good evening, Prophetess.
Good evening, everyone. I am so excited about tonight. Listen, I'm overall excited about Peace Month. It has truly been a blessing to the community, and I know that God is doing great things.
All right. Yes, he sure is. And minister, author extraordinaire, Denise Pendergrass. Hey, Denise.
Hello, everyone. Again, I thank you guys for tuning in. It is going to be an awesome session tonight. This is it. So I hope that your ears are attentive and open to hear what we have to say. God bless.
All right, fantastic. And we're going to bring in a new moderator for tonight's conversation. All right, give it up for Pastor Latoya. Hey, Miss Latoya Pinnock, what's up?
Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another session. How are we doing this evening?
We're doing great.
Great.
Yeah, we're excited. Fantastic. All right, so it looks like we have a couple of people already tuning in, ladies. Before I leave you to it, I just want to welcome our, I guess, one of our guests, right? The live studio audience. So we have here Sunshine Smiling Faces saying good evening. She says she's watching from the city of Lauderhill. Hey, Miss Shakira. Hey.
Hi, Sunshine.
Hey. Welcome, Miss Barrows. Good to see you. And of course, Jessica McDermott said she's watching from the city of Grace, Florida. Shout out to her pastor, Prophetess Monique Henry. Hey, good to see you. All right. She says she loves you. Oh, girl, if you love me like oxtail, that's a lot of love. Fantastic. All right. Studio audience. Oh, who else is tuning in? Miss Karen Gray. She says, good evening, peeps. Good evening. All right. Well, good evening to you too, ladies. So as always, I'm going to leave you in good hands. We have an important session lined up for you today, and I'm going to turn it over to you, ladies. I'll be back. Keep the conversation going.
All right.
Right. Good evening, everyone. So this evening we will be talking about discovering your collective. Are you ladies hearing me clearly?
Yes.
So as a community, we talk about peace, and peace begins with us. So this evening, Prophetess, I'll start with you. What does it really mean to have a collective in your community?
Discovering collective strengths. Yes. So I would say that in order for a community to discover its strength, they would first have to know, their gifts and their talents, right? God gives us all talents. And we did say before that this is a not religious, but it is a spiritual forum, right? And so
Yes.
we definitely going to be referencing to scriptures and stuff like that. And so scripture tells us in 1 Peter 4:10, it says, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. And so in order to get a community to discover their collective strength, they would definitely have to know their gifts and talents. Let me use, for example, vocation. My vocational calling is in residential management. I manage HOAs and condos. And I remember having doing an onboarding for one of my communities and discovered that there were three cosmetologists that were in the community. And culture will teach you to be competitive and to see who's the best stylist in the community, that competitive nature. And so to bring a community together and to discovering their strengths, competition cannot be a factor, right? And so I remember the Lord said to me, gather the three cosmetologists and teach them how to serve, right? And so what they came up with amongst themselves was to help a high school graduate with prom. And so they all came together, took some of the young high school graduates and prepared them for prom. And so it's important that we understand that in our gifts and our callings, it is to aid a community, to serve a community. And so that's one of the ways that we can discover collective strengths. I hope I answered the question.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. So, Minister Denise, when it comes to collective strength, what are some of the strengths that you look for in your community?
Okay, when it comes to discovering collective strengths, what I look for in my community and those that I serve is we look for like those everyday talents and kindness, because we know when people are hurting, I try to encourage them to remember the good that still lives inside of them. Like someone who listens well, someone who can cook for a crowd, or
Yes.
someone who knows how to plan. So these gifts, they show up during hard times, but once we recognize these strengths together, we can work together on toward a shared goal, and like healing and rebuilding that trust one step at a time. So that's one of the ways, just finding everyday talent, kindness, finding things that they love, ways that they can serve pretty much.
Yes.
And that's how I discover collective strengths within my community.
And Minister Denise, because we having a conversation,
Yes.
that goes back to identity, right? Knowing
Right.
oneself. When you look at crime in itself, and because we're promoting peace, when you look at crime,
Right.
a lot of it usually comes from people not knowing their identity, not
Right.
may not be educated, may not. It's so many different factors that come
Right.
into, but it all ties back to identity.
That is so
Right.
true.
And so being self-aware is definitely a number one part of bringing that community bond.
Yes, and I totally agree with that. And it was we were at a camp, and I was dealing with one of the students, and they were having issues about where they were upset because of what someone said about them. And one of the things I told them was that when you know who you are, no one can put a label on you.
That's right.
So I went in a little depth with it, but I kind of got him to understand you have to know who you are first. You have to acknowledge who you are. And not only that, know who you are in Christ.
Yes.
That it means so much more, because sometimes we can think to Christ, we're more than who we think we are, or who we think we know we are. So
Yes.
when you know that word and you get in that word and you know who you are in Christ, no one can put a label on you.
No
So
one.
it starts in that with that inner self, and that inner self, you have to have that inner peace. So peace comes with it, knowing who you are and whose you are. So
Amen.
And that's definitely true. You have to know who you are. But what about those people that really struggle to find themselves? and play a role in the community? How do they navigate to be able to provide that contribution? Because you want to be in a part of a community, you want to be belonging, you want to be able to not just serve but participate, but
Yeah.
then struggle with your identity. What are two tips each of you ladies would give to any individual in the community who feel like, I have nothing to offer this community because I struggle with finding out who I am?
I would like to answer that.
Yes.
Go ahead, my love.
Okay, I would like to answer that first. Okay, so I feel that people who are struggling with their identity or feeling like they do not belong, first of all, you got to get out. You got to make yourself known, for one, because there are times when some people can discover the talents that we have, and we don't even know it. So it's like getting in that community. Like for me, certain things that I didn't realize getting out in our community that I could really do, and I would say one thing was being part of the Lauderhill Shines program with Commissioner Dunn, even being a peace ambassador. When you get out in the community, there are times when you see things that are happening within the community, and you literally feel like you have a say so, like, okay, this can be done a better way, instead of just sitting back and just letting things happen and knowing that you have the talent to do certain things. Let yourself be known. That's number one. I feel that you should let yourself be known, because if you're high, don't be anyone's best kept secret. Get up, get out. That's the first thing. You have to get up and get out to make yourself known. So that's what I would say.
I love that answer. And it's so true because, I can share that before Commissioner was actually elected, she marched with us during 2020 when George Floyd had lost his life. And there were many marches across the nation. And she came and marched with us. And I remember saying, I've had never been a part of a march, right? Not fighting against gun violence or injustice or anything like that. And that day, it was like it unlocked something in me, like, no, I have to be a voice. So Minister Denise, what you're saying is so true. You cannot find your identity being in isolation.
That's right.
Isolation hinders the person who God called you to be. And so once you are out there, and yes, it may be scary because sometimes it's unknown territory or whatever, but once you are out there and you step out on faith, you begin to, I always identity is so broad. I always say this to people because, and this is something that I've been saying for a few years now, is that, there's a lot of people merchandising off of the fact that we, as a culture struggle with identity. And what it is just us not really allowing God to lead us. Because in that leading, you find out who you are. I'm sure Commissioner did not go to school to be an elected official. But in being out there and basically, pushed out there, her calling was unlocked, and so if you're out of isolation, you're definitely going to find your identity, especially if you're around the right people.
Yes.
And that involves community.
Right.
So it's interesting that you talk about serving. How do you avail yourself to serve in this collective, this community that we're talking about? How do you identify where you belong to serve?
When you want to go ahead, Minister?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. When it comes to community, the city is a great resource. The city always has something going on. They're always looking for volunteers. And you have to know what is happening in your neighborhood, because even if the city don't have something going on, there's a light bulb that will come on inside of you to say, listen, I see a blind spot. I see a need here, right? And this is how what do you call those? Neighborhood watches were birthed,
Yes.
and neighborhood block parties were birthed, and because someone saw the need to create a certain harmony in the community, and so you have to get out there and be able to identify what's needed in your community,
Yes.
right?
And I agree with that, Pastor Monique. And like for one, you have to get out, get connected with people. And not only that, get involved with your local officials, get involved to see what's really going on in the community, see what opportunities are there, see what the community needs, because they're there. They know what the community needs. And if you can be of help to whatever that need is, that's your opportunity. That's your chance to shine. That's your chance to serve, to show what you got to give to your community. And honestly, it's a good feeling, and I feel also your family is part of a community.
Yes.
Start with your family, start serving your family, getting them involved in the things that you're doing for the city to see, or in your community, so that they can get out there, so that they can discover their hidden talents. So I feel like being connected with local officials, being connected with your family is part of community. That's something that's very important. I believe that starting within your family, once you teach them, they can get out there and teach other people, what you've taught them. So it starts home, and then, getting out in your community and getting connected with those people of authority, people who know about the community. And for me, I got connected with my HOA. I'm on the board of our HOA now. So, and you learn more, and you want to know more. As you get into it, you want to know more. And then not only that, you learn that you can network with different people, and then different people have different needs. It may not even be in your city or your community, but the opportunities are there when you get out and you share what you have in your community, well, what you can do in your community. But it's getting out. You have to be connected first.
Yeah.
And that's definitely true, ladies. It's very important that we look around, and it begins at home. It begins with us. How can we serve ourselves and serve others? And like you say, Minister Denise, it starts with our family. The little things that we do to serve our family members, and then in the larger community. I remember once someone say, wherever the passion is, whatever it is that bothers you, it's where you begin. And you can't figure out, and you can't do everything, but whatever that one thing is that you feel like something needs to be done, then you start there and you start serving and do what you can in the community as a collective, because two is always better than one.
That's right.
Two is always better than one.
Amen.
And one of our guest here tonight is saying that it's important to go out and serve, discovering your talent through serving, and in the ministry, God plants within us gifts that we unfold while we serve, and that is true. There are a lot of things that I discover about myself while serving. Even the very fact that I had an issue, and one of my issues that I had after my son passed away, there were no organization in my city that provided the kind of grief counseling I wanted as a family. I wanted specific. I wanted a Christian organization that would give counseling to my husband and I, and it wasn't there. So what did I do? I go out and create one the way I wanted it to look, to serve other moms in the community. And I'm not saying that everybody should start an organization. I'm just saying take that step, that baby step into being a part of the collective. Those community members who they see the things that are happening, but they're afraid to create the change because change is hard. And so now we're talking about coming together and being a part of the collective. Let's not just be spectators, but be participants. And so we're encouraging our community to participate. Come and be a part of the collective. Discover the strength and the weakness, because again, there are some weaknesses in our communities. And with each of us, we can play a role in that. So ladies, with that, I want to ask, what are some of the things that are in your community, in your collective, right here in the beautiful city of Lauderhill, that you can cause change to come about with the peace that we're talking about?
I would say again, getting involved. First being self-aware and then getting involved. Um, Community is so important. When you think of Martin Luther King, right? And you hit the nail on the you hit the hammer on the nail, Pastor Dr. Latoya. You have to be able to say, okay, I see a problem, and I believe I could solve it, because it's twofold, right? You have people that they will see a problem and they will sit there and complain forever, right? We see some of them in the commission meetings, but then you see those that they actually come with the solution, right? Or they want to be present enough to see how they can be of service. And one of the things that I notice is it's not so much fear that always holds people back from wanting to be involved and serving. It's just the fact that they don't believe that they have what it takes to be of service, right? And that's not fair. Again, that goes back to self-awareness. So, it definitely is being involved, seeing what community initiatives have gone out, like Peace365. We've been pushing this for about 3 years now, asking people to take the
Yes.
pledge, residents, business owners to take the pledge,
Yes.
and it's been going strong. And so continuing to build on that momentum, and also just making sure that we're practicing what we preach,
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
because that's going to make a
Definitely.
great difference, right?
Oh,
I,
yes.
I, I can't be around here, pushing peace and acting contrary, right? Even though sometimes the contrary will come and prick you in your side, but you got to make sure you hold on to that peace and continue to move forward, and let your light shine.
Yes.
Mhm.
Can
So,
you?
Coach, I want to find out, what are some of the blind spots that are in our community that would cause us not to participate in our collective?
You said what are some blind spots in our community that would not
That would
that
cause
would
you, would affect your decision to not participate in your community. Because, like Prophetess say, we are doers of what we say we're doing. We're not just saying it, we're walking the talk every day.
Okay, so I would say there's sometimes that people have fear or misunderstanding. There's a part that little blind spot where it opens up that little mirror, like, because sometimes it could be so much going on, right? And you're like, okay, I'm here, I'm observing, as Pastor Monique was saying. You sit around, you observe, you go to the meetings, you see certain things that's happening, you are involved in your community, and then you think, what can I do to serve? What can I do to help this issue? And sometimes things can be so overwhelming or overstimulating as you're observing, and then that's when fear creeps in. That's when you begin, or even misunderstanding happens. But you have to continue to stand and stay steady. You have to remain steady. But that would be one of the things that would kind of cause us to waver in confronting certain blind spots within the community. But we can also ask questions like, what do you do? What do you normally leave unsaid? What are some things that you leave unsaid? What are one thing we wish everyone understood most about us?
Mhm.
When people feel heard and respected, they become more open. They're
Definitely.
more willing to talk to you, even sharing stories or certain things, sharing the reason why you feel you want to contribute to the community. Because, you have different people coming in with different agendas, wanting to do different things, but sometimes it could be a misunderstanding. But when you ask those questions, people are more open to talk to you. They're more open to let you know how they feel, and they're more willing to look honestly at those blind spots. So healing begins with patience, grace, and honesty. So I would say that would be a way that I would confront that.
Wow, those three are heavy. Honesty, being
Yes.
really honest about who you are, what are you looking to see in your community. So, Prophetess Monique, I want you to help us tonight with being honest. How do we be honest with those blind spots, and how we protect our peace, understanding those blind spots?
So, you know, when I hear the word blind spots, again, I think an opportunity of growth, right? And so to to discover a blind spot, you definitely have to have a lot of humility, because not everyone wants to be corrected. Some have a fear of correction, which leads them not to want to get involved. And let's be honest, sometimes you are the blind spot. And you have to be willing to hear something is wrong with you, and we need to, you know, find out what it is so we could get you the necessary help that you need. But honesty goes back to being self-aware, right? Because we're all human, and every last one of us got a crack in our armor somewhere, right? And this is why we need a savior. But honesty is important, because it will not, when you're honest with yourself, you're less likely to be in isolation, which keeps you from being a part of community, which keeps you from, you know, because we have this false sense of peace, right? And this is why Jesus said, I give you peace, not as the world does. The world has this, let me protect my peace. But protecting peace right now, as it is like isolation. It's me, myself, team, me, myself, and I, you know, or team, no new friends. You know, that is not community. That's a selfish way of thinking, right? And it's a false sense of love also, because if you truly love yourself, you're not afraid to invite others in. You're not afraid to invite others to see who you are. And so honesty is very important, because it helps build community. Where there's anything hidden, nothing can grow there. Right.
That's heavy. That's heavy. Where there is no growth, we can't do anything. And without growth, we can't heal. And we can't, if we're not honest with ourselves, then it would be a waste. So my question is to Minister Denise. I struggle with correction. The fact that you're gonna tell me, Dr. Latoya, that something is wrong with me when I'm the expert at this. How do we resolve the conflict of not being able to identify that I have a crack, and together we want to create peace with ourselves and with our community? How do we come together and handle that conflict?
I would say the way we would handle that conflict is, I would say, first of all, being self-aware. Because more than likely, I would look at you and ask you, how are you feeling right now? So I'll bring you back and ask those questions, those hard questions again. How do you feel right now? And what can I do to help you? What can I do to change that feeling that you have? You know, and then we'll work together, even if that requires us doing some breathing exercises, taking a moment to, you know, diffuse ourselves. And then even in prayer, joining in prayer, because for me, prayer is very important. And that's one of the ways that I resolve conflict is through
I'm not
prayer.
a Christian, so what are you talking about prayer? I don't even know how to pray. What is that?
Okay, so we're gonna still talk to you, because I'm gonna continue to believe, whether you believe or not. I'm gonna believe God for you. That's first and foremost. I'm gonna believe.
There you go.
I'm gonna believe God for you, and we're gonna just talk it out. We're gonna talk it out. I'm gonna ask those questions. Why are you feeling? what got you to this point. We're gonna really go in depth, because in the end, you're gonna realize that I had the answer all this time. Because I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to help you.
That's the part.
Because it's an internal, because
For the
what
people
you're
in the back who
projecting.
didn't hear that, say it again.
It just came out, baby.
Repeat it.
She said, I'm not here to fix
It just came out. If they missed it, baby, they missed it.
She said, I'm not here to fix you.
No, I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to help you. You know, and if you're intentional about that change, you know, then you have to be willing and open to change.
Yes.
And it starts within. You have to heal the inner self. That's why those questions have to be asked, because you have to look deep within you, and then you realize and come up with the answers on what you need to do. Because I'm here to meet you where you are, so that we together can move forward, so that we together can keep life moving. But I'm not here to fix you. I'm here to help you to ask those hard questions that you may have in your mind, or that people won't say to you. I'm here to say that, to ask those questions, and I guarantee it will change. The conversation will change. But I'm going to continue to believe if you don't, because I'm believing him for you. I'm believing him for you for that change.
That's right.
Correct. And that's
what I would think.
And I believe that's what a collective should do, is to be able to be there for you in that difficult space when you aren't able to work together. The patient, that's when it comes in.
Yes.
Honestly, that, listen, Dr. Latoya is so hard to work with, you know, being honest, that she's challenging to work with. So, however, I'm going to be able to provide that grace that she needs, that patience that she needs. We're going to still work together, because I definitely need her expertise to cause this peace to come about, to do this initiative, to be her brother. I am her brother's keeper. So one of the things is working together, even though there are challenges, those blind spots that we're talking about, it's working to be able to accomplish the goal without stepping on each other's head to get
correct. Yes.
Dr. Latoya, that's so good. You know, and I love how you started off with, well, I am doctor, so you know what you got to say to me. And I think, you know, again, humility plays a huge role, because when the doctor, you put down the doctor, you're still human. You know, again, you still got some cracks. You still got some areas that God gotta, you know, refine. And so I think the best thing for us to remember is that we are all human. Yes. Right. And going back to what Minister Denise said, and just want to be heard. You know, and we're going to go to commercial break in a minute. And I don't know if Commissioner is going to show the Lauderhill commercial for Peace365, but there's a part in it where there are two men walking,
having a dispute.
Having a dispute. I don't know if they stepped on each other's toes or whatnot, but then they take a step back, right? Because we're talking about steps. Then they take a step back, and it's almost as if they are saying to each other, well, hold on, because what is this about? Because we walk in here angry. And, you know, so sometimes you have to mentally take a step back and assess what is happening. You know, we're so, and I hate using this word because it's so, you know, but sometimes we're so triggered, and it shows where we need healing. Right. It shows where those areas that we haven't really given over to God yet, or we're still in the process of overcoming. But at the same time, you know, God gives us breath. And so you may not know how to pray or have a prayer life or know Jesus or, you know, whoever you choose to believe in, but we all can breathe. And that's one of the greatest things that we have, you know, the ability to breathe, to take a breath, to take a step back. Right. And to really we have a mind. God has given us a mind. Right. And so it's to take a step back and really understand what is going on. I used to have a really bad temper and just full of impatience. And I remember, I'm trying to be quick, and I know we got to go to commercial break, but I remember, and I'll be very open, getting in a fight with my sister, and it got really violent. You know, my blood sister, it got really violent. And at that time, I know people are gonna be like, whatever, vulnerability is what it is, right? So I picked up a knife and I wanted to attack her with it. And I remember, and that time I was not saved. So just hear me, right? I wasn't saved. I wasn't walking with God, obviously, because I got, weapons in my hand and all that stuff. But I heard a voice tell me to put the knife down. And I heard another voice tell me, pick it up and go charge for her. And I'm listening to these two voices, and my husband, who was boyfriend at the time, and my brother was looking at me, and I'm literally talking to the two voices saying, no, I want to do it. And, I don't know if I should put it down. I was having a conversation with good and evil. Listen, you may not believe in Jesus, but every last one of us knows that good and evil exists.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so here I am, and I am in this conversation with these two voices speaking to me. And it's like and I didn't realize it at the time, but I could say it now. My flesh just wanted to hurt her because of everything that had happened. And I remember charging towards her. And something happened where I saw her not in the age where she was, but as my little sister, my little baby sister that I used to have on my hip. And, and I got so angry, even though I saw that, I got so angry. I didn't charge after her, but I took the knife and I put it I slammed it in a piece of wood and have this scar. So I slammed it in a piece of wood, and my pinky finger ended up hanging on by a little thread. And I remember being rushed to the hospital, and like I heard a voice say, this is a scar from you being so angry. Never get to this place again. Never get to this place again. Hear me. I did not know God. I was not saved. Right? And so I'm talking to the people out there that say, I don't hear his voice. I don't know what God sounds like. I don't know Jesus. And his voice is the voice of good.
Yes.
His voice is the voice of good.
Yes.
And so I learned that from that time is that, it really comes with understanding that you can take a step back and really assess what needs to be assessed and take that peace over you so that you can disarm not only, others, but yourself especially. Right. And so, we all have these things that we have to work on. And it's important that we are honest, can take correction.
Yes.
And know that God speaks to us. He speaks to you whether you saved or not.
Yes.
And I'm not here to debate that with anybody. I know it.
Yes, definitely.
Good. I completely agree. And as we go to our commercial break, I would love Commissioner to play that clip just so when we come back, we can finish this conversation about how to handle the conflict within our collective, which is our community we're talking about this evening. So stay tuned.
Kindness starts with an unexpected gesture and grows with every act of service. It's in the helping hands and hearts joining for a common good. Kindness sees the burden and offers relief. In every shared moment and every gentle word.
Join our movement, Lauderhill. Text Peace365 to 545454 and become a Lauderhill Peacemaker. Pledge your commitment to co-creating a kinder, more peaceful Lauderhill.
Peace begins in the heart. And grows with understanding. Every shared story, and every act of kindness builds a stronger community. In every handshake, smile, and kind word,
Join our movement, Lauderhill. Text Peace365 to 545454 and become a Lauderhill Peacemaker. Pledge your commitment to co-creating a kinder, more peaceful Lauderhill.
Welcome back, everyone, to our conversation. I'm just going to read a few of the comments. The Holy Spirit, the holy blessings to all of you. I'm sending unconditional love and sending divine love, the agape love to all holy family. John 14, verse 36. He will never leave us nor forsake us, and that is true. The Lord is with us always. Whether we are Christians or not, we know wrong from right, we know good from evil. And all of us, if we do a survey tonight, all of us want to be in good. We want to have a good life and we want to live happy and in peace. And as the commercials show, it begins with you sharing your story. So in the collective of, in our community, it is important that, like you said, Prophetess, we step back, we think about it, and we make that step forward. We have to be intentional because all around us, there's conflict. But we also know that all around us, there can be peace. And it begins with you and I. And it begins with us making that step of sharing our story, or even just talking about the way we want to see it look. And so, as we do this other half, we want to talk more about how we discover the good within us to be able to move forward. So when Peace Month is over, the steps we're going to take to ensure that we live in peace. Yes, the conflict is there, but how do we make that step of living in peace on a daily basis, every hour, every week, every month, every year? So we're not just going to talk about peace now and leave it here. We're going to be moving into an action position year on. What are the things that you would like to do or you will be doing in your own little different community to be able to move into a consistent peace?
Okay, I would like to answer that first. I would say peace isn't just a movement, it's a mindset. And it's a mission. And like you said, it doesn't just stop here because it's Peace Month. I choose peace in my words, in my actions, 365 days a year. And the way that I do that is through kindness. Kindness, sharing or helping someone, helping my neighbor, helping an elder person, or even just, taking someone out to lunch, or someone that has been having a really rough day, a hard time, or a hard week. Give that person a call, check on them. Or even if it's someone that have lost a loved one, or lost a job, take that person out and let them know, hey, it's on me today. I got you. And then in the midst of that, you're going to encourage these people. You're going to encourage them to keep going. You're going to encourage them and to keep life moving. And even if you can, okay, if someone has lost a job, I'll give you a little something to last you for the week, or food or something like that. But I think that kindness plays a huge role in having peace. And that's what we need. I remember one day, I was out of town and I went to this hotel to meet someone there. And this hotel was upscale, very, 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 very busy. So I went to the counter because the individual said to just go where I needed to go. when I get there. So, but me, you know, I went there, followed protocol, went there and went to the desk, told them who I was coming to see, who I was waiting for in the lobby. And they said they will get them and they would wait. So a manager comes over, and while I'm talking to this individual, I was like, okay. And this individual said, you know what? Thank you for being so kind and understanding. And I told him, I said, every day I wake up, I choose kindness. I choose love. I choose peace. And I hope to attract that same energy. So the manager comes over and she says, you don't know how many times we just tell people to just wait and they just blow off on us. But she was like, I really appreciate you. I mean, they gave me cookies, water, everything. And I'm just, you know, just for being patient and kind. So it matters. It matters. But those are ways that I will continue to show peace in my community, in my family, and to those I love, or just someone, you know, that I see need help.
Prophetess Monique, your take on this matter?
Yes, I mean, I agree with Denise. You know, she said the perfect word. It's a choice. You first have to make the choice that you're going to remain in peace, and you know, and it's daily, right? And it's word of the century, intentional.
Yes.
So, so you know, I believe that once we have, and I'm not going to say mastered, but once we have become aware that, okay, this is definitely what we want to yield to. We want to yield to peace. We want to make sure that we are shining lights of peace. Then it'll be easy to serve others in through that way. Right? It'll be easy to see kids fighting in a neighborhood and know that we have the boldness to break up the fight. You know, it'll be easy to know that my neighbor down the street is going through domestic violence, and I could talk to her and say, listen, you deserve better. It'll be easy to knock on my neighbor's door and say, are you okay? How's the family doing? You know, one of the things that I'm realizing, especially being in community association management, is that village that we may know, because we're, you know, I'm not going to say older, we're mature. One of the things that I'm realizing is that village that we know, that we grew up with,
Yes.
you know, where the neighbor down the street will see you with your little boyfriend and go tell your mama.
Yes.
That is almost, you know, non-existent, because
Yes.
everyone is so locked into themselves. You know, you can't be a lover of your own self and spread anything. Right. And so
Right.
again, it's making the choice to say, I am going to make sure that I possess the peace, you know, again, not just preaching about it, but I embody it. And I have no issues with being around others that may not be that peaceful and shining that light.
Yes.
And it goes back to being kind. It goes back to being aware of your surroundings. You know, it's important to know that you have to make a choice. And so that's the word, make a choice.
Yes. Yes.
So we
It's a
have to
mindset.
make that choice and be intentional.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
one of the comments in the chat says, peace is a mission and a mindset. That's powerful. That's
Powerful.
definitely true.
Yes.
It's a mindset that we all have to take on, because one of the things is that we're cultured differently.
Mhm.
And because we're cultured differently, we always have a culture clash.
It's true.
And so
Very
in
true.
the collective, we have to make sure that we embrace and respect other person's culture, but at the same time ensure that everybody have a space to share their culture and not having culture clash.
Yes.
Yes, it can be the same space with all Jamaicans, because one is going to tell you this is not how it's done, and I respect that's not how it's done in your neck of the woods, but in this neck of the woods, we're creating peace and kindness. This is how we're going to do it. So we're re-culturalizing the way we act and behave towards each other. So I
And
know culture can cause big thing. And
Yes.
here in Lauderhill, we have a multicultural community.
Yes, we do.
How do we respect each other and create boundary in peace?
I really want to answer that question because I'm maybe some people don't know this, but I am very much Jamaican, and I could share a testimony on this. So and it can be done, to show you it can be done. So being Jamaican, having Haitian friends and Dominican, so we tend to talk very passionately, right? Our volume is not always the inside voice. And I remember my Jewish friend asked me a question, and she was like, "Do y'all always argue?" And I'm like, "We're not arguing, you know." And she was like, "Oh, because it's it sounds like you're yelling." And I had to look at it. I'm like, it does sound like we're yelling, but it's just, again, not it's being understanding of other people's culture, not being judgmental, right? Not being judgmental, but it's just like, but she was so gentle and kind to me, like, and with that question, she was like, "Oh, y'all," it wasn't a judgmental thing. She really wanted to find out if we were arguing or having a conversation. And I'm like, "Honey, that was a conversation." we're not we talk very passionate,
Yes.
but it can be done, and it takes us not being judgmental of one another and respecting the culture. And truth be told, a lot of us ain't really that different.
Yes,
we
so
just
true.
act, we may act a certain way, but if you check some stuff out, because I've been around enough cultures to see that we are quite the same. I've been around Jewish cultures, they be struggling to fast too, so we just got to respect each
Yes.
other.
Yes. And with that being said, I agree, Pastor Monique. I would say set good boundaries.
Yes.
Set good boundaries, because when you set good boundaries, everyone feel heard and respected.
Yes.
And when you have those good boundaries, like she said, when and I deal with a lot of different type of people too, and I know y'all Jamaicans, so it's like, and I have no problem. Like, I could literally,
You'll be around.
just,
Yes.
I can literally get it. I'm good with everybody, but it's like you said, not being judgmental.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people come off judgmental, and a lot of times it's normal for us. That's like the first thing, you want to judge people, but when you come in not being judgmental, and then you're setting good boundaries, you're understanding, it creates an understanding for all the cultures, because I think what the fear is in that, in the cultural differences, is people being misunderstood.
Yes.
Yeah.
But when you set those good boundaries, as I stated, everyone feels heard and honored or respected. So that's what I would say. Set those, or have those good boundaries.
So we have to set those good boundaries to ensure that not just peace, but we heal, because some of us
Right.
have gone through so much hurt from the collective, whether from our immediate family, whether it's from our governmental system, whether it's from our churches. We all struggle with some level of hurt.
Yes.
We get hurt on the job, we get hurt everywhere we go. And so with those piling hurts, we have to create healthy boundaries so we can heal and be great peacemaker. Someone just said that we are peacemakers. So one of the things that we have to do is that we have to tell ourselves, I am a peacemaker. And because I'm a peacemaker, I'm going to respect Minister Denise, because she was cultured differently. She was a cultured the American way, while I was cultured the Jamaican way. And I'm super passionate. And then sometimes I might come across as stern or aggressive. While I'm not, we're sharing the same passion, but we're articulating it differently. She would be a little bit more quiet and a little bit more poised, while I'm a little bit loud. It's not that I don't agree with her. It's just that we were cultured differently, and there's a lot of things that we have learned that we need to unlearn to
Yes.
be able to be good peacemakers. And
That's
so
right.
I totally agree with we respecting others and creating boundaries for each other, because yes, we can trigger each other in different ways. And
Yeah.
what we don't want to do is reopen wounds
That's
and
right.
a lot of issues in our collective, because we're growing,
Yes.
we're evolving, we're becoming. And because we're becoming the peacemaker, and we are going to create peace 365 days of the year, we're going to make sure that we don't judge others according to our own biases.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
let's
That-
talk a little bit about biases and making sure that we are cautious with our words.
Dr. Latoya, can I just tap into something that you said a while ago, because this also aids in peace, right? You mentioned us, you mentioned community can also play a part in hurting you, right? Whether it be in your neighborhood, as you said, church, on the job, where offense will come. That's what the Bible says. It's inevitable, right? But a part of peace also is not running away from that hurt, but facing it, right? And I'm going to be, here in the clergy seat. A lot of us get hurt and we run from church. We ain't running from the job because it's paying us, right?
You're absolutely
So
right.
we make a choice on what kind of hurt we're going to take and for how long we're going to take it. Right. But the truth of the matter is you have to be able to face your hurt, not always run from depending on the situation. Let me say that, depending on the situation, not always, retreating or going in isolation when you're hurt. A part of acquiring that peace is really understanding. Right? The Bible says, in all that get understanding. When you're hurt, you got to sit with that for a while and find out and discover why it is that particular thing hurt you. Right? I'm a deep thinker, so I like to examine things thoroughly and see what was the cause. Why did I react that way? What was it inside of me? What is it, or was it inside of me that continued on with this, if anything, right? And so I love that you touched on that, knowing that, okay, community may hurt you, but it does not mean you stay away.
Yes.
You face what it is, learn to deal with conflict.
Well,
right?
we're gonna pivot and we're gonna come again. Go ahead, Denise.
Okay. No, okay, so I'm glad you mentioned that, Pastor Monique, because I was that person. I was the one that walked away from conflict. I will kill you with silence. And no, seriously. And I literally would not deal. I would not deal. I would stay away. But it got to a point where it was like, okay, Denise, you know who you are in Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do these things anymore.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with it to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you hold it in, once it's out, it's going to cause an explosion.
Yeah.
And things can happen.
It escalates.
That you don't expect to happen. And then you're living with regret. Now you're beating yourself up. You can't forgive yourself and nobody else, for that matter. So I was that person, and I had to really, realign myself. I had to re-examine who I was, because here I am encouraging people, motivating people, and knowing that, hey, I am that go-to person, but I'm not doing what I'm telling people to do. You got to deal with it to get rid of it. But what am I doing? I'm running from it. I'm holding it in. Like, you have to let that out. You really have to deal with it to get rid of it. You really have to. And that comes with acknowledging what you've done, acknowledging how you're feeling or what prompted you to feel the way that you're feeling. But it does come with acknowledging. And you do sometimes have to take a step back. It's just like you're buying a new house. You can't have a nice view of that home until you step out of it. On the outside, if you're trying to look at the outside of that home, you have to step out of it to look at it. You know,
Right.
so it's like sometimes we have to step out of situations or step back from certain situations to really see. Like they say, you never miss a good thing until it's gone.
Mhm.
That's when you really begin to analyze. But guess what? Sometimes it's too late.
Yeah.
So deal with it to get rid of it.
That's right.
Right. And so there are persons, and I'm going to use myself like I've been using myself all evening. There are persons like me
Yes, use yourself.
who don't know how to, even if I acknowledge that there is something there, I've been wounded, I know I'm wounded, but I don't know how to sit with that feeling because I'm afraid of sitting with that feeling.
Mhm.
So as we, wind down to being consistent as peacemakers and living in peace 365 days of the year, what are some pointers if one cannot sit with their emotion because they're so wounded and they're so triggered by everything and they don't want to trauma bond and all these things? What can we do as a collective to help those persons?
I'm gonna answer it. So what I believe is, and we run from this, vulnerability is very powerful. I know the definition is contrary, right? But there's power in being vulnerable, because when someone is trapped in that victim state of mind or a offensive state of mind, the best way to reach them, not fix them, right?
Right.
The best way to reach them is to show them you're human. Help them to understand, where you were, or just to be open. And we as a people, when it comes to being vulnerable, and I understand, because I understand the hesitations because of hurt, right? But when you testify about something that you have overcome, or things that have happened to you, there's such a great release from that.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we allow our minds to like block us from being so open and honest, because
Yes.
if I'm telling you everything that I have, or whatever the Lord wants me to release to you, if I'm telling you that, I cannot have a fear of releasing that, because what you gonna do with it? God already knows what done happened. Right?
Exactly.
But at the same time, we can't be afraid to be vulnerable. We can't allow anything to cause us to put on these false personas and different armors that we create. We have to be able to know that there are others that are struggling, and in us, in the areas that we've been healed, we have the potential to help them move from that place, right? To help them to understand that, listen, I'm human, you're human. We don't have it all together, and it's okay. But this place where you're at, this place where you're stuck, you can move from there.
Yeah.
So I believe that us being vulnerable plays a great role in the freedom of another person.
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I agree with that, Prophetess Monique. Because if we're not open to people, like sometimes, and I've heard this in conversations, people would say, "You can't tell me nothing. You ain't never been through it." You know
That's
what I
the
mean?
thing.
So, so that goes to piggyback on the things that you're saying, being vulnerable, being transparent, and, sharing your story, sharing the struggles and the things that you've gone through so that others may overcome, so that you can literally, so they can feel like, okay, if this was done for her, or if the Lord did it for her, I know it can be done for me.
Yes.
If he gave her hope through all of that, and now I'm feeling like what she went through was way worse than what I went through.
Mm-hmm.
So I know I'm coming through this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's to give people that hope. You have to be transparent. You have to share your story. And even in that, we teach to learn also.
Yes.
We learn as we teach.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I think that is huge when it comes to teaching. We're still learning so much, and the people that we deal with even though they may be difficult, But in the midst of that, we're still learning, because some things you may feel like, okay, did I really get through to that person? Do I feel? But then you take a step back and you re-examine, you reanalyze the things that happened, the conversation that you've had, and you find ways of, okay, our next meetup, we're going to do this. I'm going to ask these questions. Because sometimes we talk to people, we have like a whole playlist that we're going to have, a whole list of questions that we're going to ask. And we forget sometimes those questions. We don't even end up asking those questions. But sometimes in the midst of that, some things happen and conversation, things are said that, okay, the next time I need to ask this question, or I need to ask this open-ended question, or, I need to follow through on this issue or this topic, So we learn what our audience is, what our audience need, in the midst of that. But it comes with sharing your story, being transparent, and letting people know that you're not the only one. You're not the only one. There are others. I've been through this. I've experienced this. So that's what I would say. It's a big part of sharing who you are as well.
So as we wrap up, ladies, as we close, one closing remarks and one call of action as we move forward, as we go into this new month, as we, close out this Peace Month, as we are living in peace 365 days of the year. What is your one call of action and your closing remarks as we close?
I would say, for those who are listening, peace starts with me. Peace starts now, and peace is you. I don't know where or what wave of life you're experiencing, but I want you to know that the power is within you to create the change you want and desire. So when life knocks you down and you don't know what to do what I did. The word of Proverbs, it reads, trust 5 in verses 3 through 6. Proverbs 3 verse 5 through 6 reads, trust in the Lord with all of your heart. Lean not to your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your path. Now, we know that loss, gun violence, domestic violence has caused pain and hurt in so many families. I challenge you to choose peace today. Take the pledge, just like I've done. God bless.
Thank you, Denise.
Amen. And so I would say that in order for us to continue to walk in the peace that we're talking about, or to attain it, peace is something that is given to you when your heart is aligned with the Lord. When your heart is aligned with your Creator, you will find peace. And so my call of action, aside from taking the pledge, which I know many of us have, Commissioner gave a great report the last time that we were on, but my call of action is very simple. Knock on your neighbor's door and find out if they're okay. There's something that happens in service that changes our hearts. When we serve one another, it creates a peace. It unlocks a sense of worth in us, right? Because two are better than one. So my call of action is very simple. Go ahead and knock on that neighbor's door and ask them if they're okay.
Yes, I love that.
Thank you, Prophetess. I love that from both of you ladies. Thank you so much to our audience for coming on. We truly appreciate you allowing us to come into your home and just share hope. So we're here to share hope and to bring peace to you. So tonight, I hope someone take peace, a slice of the peace that we brought this evening. We're not giving you the whole cake. We're giving you a piece tonight so that you have for yourself.
That's right.
A piece of peace.
The piece of peace.
A piece of peace.
Yes, tonight, so you can have to share with your neighbor and to be intentional and to be a peacemaker. I now hand over to the best commissioner in the city of Lauderhill.
Hey, everyone. Good conversation, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to invite you to join the movement if you haven't already done so. I love the call to action that was given tonight. You know, find peace within yourself and make the personal commitment, and then knock on your neighbor's door. See what's possible. I'm going to put it up one more time. If you haven't done the pledge already, go ahead and do so. And remember, peace begins with me and you. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's keep the conversation going, everyone. Let's go.
Peace begins in the heart and grows with understanding. Every shared story and every act of kindness builds a stronger community.
Join our movement, Lauderhill. Text Peace365 to 545454. Pledge your commitment to co-creating a kinder, more peaceful Lauderhill.